Hello, this is Jenny Shore from Metal Priestesses Podcast. I'm so pleased to welcome to the show Gabriella Logan, aka Guitar Gabby. She's an Atlanta native and a proud graduate of Spelman College and Vermont Law School. She's also a fierce guitarist and manager of international all-women touring collective TxLips Band, LLC. Gabby is the diversity editor for Guitar Girl magazine and the board chair for Girls Rock Asheville. Take it away, Wendy.
It develops. We urge you to stay tuned to radio and TV and to stay indoors at all costs.
As of 12 noon tomorrow, say goodbye to the world as you know it. Say goodbye to
Metal Priestesses.
Saying that, I think that she needs to have her own Barbie doll.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree. I would love for that to happen one day. It's been something that I've been working on with a couple of different people.
I think that's amazing. Tell our listeners a little bit about your background, how you got into playing guitar and how the band started and all that wonderful stuff.
So I grew up playing piano. I started on piano, and then I started playing the clarinet and the oboe. And the reason why I was drawn to both of those instruments more so than the piano was because I was listening to a lot of Star Trek and Lord of the Rings soundtracks.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with the structure of them. And then I started learning how to play them on the clarinet. And then I wanted something that I was able to sing and play at the same time, because you can't do that with the oboe or the clarinet. And so my mom got me a guitar, and I was also listening to a lot of rock music too. And so my mom got me my first guitar, and then I taught myself how to play by just trying to replicate what I was hearing. And that led me to doing that for maybe 3 or 4 years. And then I started studying classical guitar for about 3 or 4 years. And then by that point, I felt more confident, okay, I think I understand the instrument. And I would spend a lot of time taking them apart and putting them back together and, just trying to figure out what makes this instrument the way that it is. Everybody has a why they are the way they are. The guitarists do too. So,
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Are you going to add becoming a luthier onto your resume?
It's in the works. It's in the works.
Right?
Oh, by the way, she's also an attorney.
I am. So, and I want to talk a little bit about that, because a lot of people, I think, associate the word law or lawyer or attorney with evil and contracts and 360s and all that kind of stuff. But there's different types of lawyers and different types of attorneys. And I'm one of those that works in the educational and consulting context, because I believe that if you understand, what you're signing up front, maybe, you have somebody that's walking you through it, or you figure it out through trial and error, it helps to prevent worse things down the road where you actually would need an attorney to go and litigate for you in court. So we don't have to get to that point if you understand up front. So I work on the front end, or I guess you could see it as the back end, in preventative measures. And that's, yeah.
Why did that turn you on, I guess? How come you decided to go into law?
Well, I mean, growing up, when I started writing music and then started playing the guitar and writing whole songs, my dad was very, very, he had learned a lot from his father, because my grandfather he was in policing in Atlanta, but he was also involved in writing in the music industry. And he didn't know about copyright. He didn't know about all those things, and unfortunately lost, the rights to a lot of the music that he wrote. So my dad growing up was you got to be able to protect your greatest asset. And for you, it's going to be songwriting, because the songwriters are really the ones that, make the money in the industry. You can't play guitar to something that's not written. So he used to help me understand those things. We used to read the copyright website. And then eventually, when I graduated from Spelman, my undergrad, I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I want to understand the business more. I already have learned quite a bit through trial and error. But my mom was like, you should just go to law. Just go to Vermont Law School and, learn what you can and keep moving. And so that's how that happened. So
We could have used you back in the 80s. I'll tell you.
Right.
Oh my
I
God.
wanted to ask, what music did you listen to growing up, and what was the era of music that was the most influential for you?
Mostly grunge, like a lot of grunge. Nirvana is one of my favorite bands for eternity, hands down.
We love that cover, by the way. We love.
Thank you.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. But yeah, the grunge was definitely like one of the eras I was listening to a lot of. And I think I had a very deep connection, I think, with the way that Kurt Cobain expressed the things that he was going through in life through his music. And the other thing I loved is that, you know, whenever you turn on Smells Like Teen Spirit, it doesn't matter what color you are. It don't matter what you look like, where you from. You know that song, you're going to start shaking your head and like jamming out. And that's a uniting tool. And I think that music can definitely be a powerful tool to unite people. So I took inspiration from grunge and from Kurt Cobain and try to, you know, do a little bit of that through my music as well.
I think he would love your cover version.
I think he would.
Thank you. Man,
really
yeah. Rest in power.
Yeah.
And he was such a feminist himself. And I loved when they got inducted into the Rock Hall and they had women singing. He would have loved that. Like, people that really know Nirvana and know him, they know he would have loved that. So
tell that to the people in the comments.
I will. My God. I mean, there's so much evidence out there what a feminist he was. And were you did you ever get into like the Riot Girl movement?
Yeah, and they actually the Riot Girl movement has been big supporters of us since day one. But I think that one of the things I love about the Riot Girl movement is just the consistency, and it's easy to say consistency like in any context, like no matter what you're talking about, but really being able to be consistent in something, especially being female, being non-binary, being women in this world, we're at a disadvantage because white men think that they run everything. And so being able to just be consistent and taking a stand and like, we're going to represent for us. We're not asking, we're telling you. And, you know, if you want to be a part of that movement, be a part of the Riot Girl movement, be a part of, you know, the TxLips movement, that's cool. We invite that. But if you're not going to be here, we're still going to be consistent and push for representation because like where we built all of this shit. So like, where's the representation?
Right. Well, I was going to kind of ask you, like, I mean, I'm so happy Guitar World is starting to include you and everything, but why did it take so long?
As soon as we find out the answer, I will let y'all know. I think that it just has to do with like systematic, I'm not going to say racism with regards to this, but just systematic oppression of Black creatives and Black people in the music industry. It's just been how it's been for so many years. And I think that institutions and organizations and companies like Guitar World have just been operating in something that to the founders or to the owners may seem like second nature. So like if you bring up the words diversity and inclusion to them, they don't really see that as a need because they've been doing something that they think is right and they're making money from it. So why change? But I think that the new editors and people who have been, you know, working on the inside and have a fresh mindset and actually do believe in representation for all females and all colors of people, those are the people that you want on your side. And fortunately, I've been able to really link with those people over the last few years. They've been very supportive. So
that's fantastic.
And it seems on top of the racism aspect of it, also it's patriarchal. I mean, they always assume, you know, for some reason, after all these years, even it's like, oh, guitar players are, you know, white guys, and that's not where rock and roll came from, you know. So it's really it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Were you a fan of Sister Rosetta?
Yes. And you know what? And this is really a really good point to kind of segue a little bit into like the education. And the reason why I went into law was because of education. Like I did not learn the Sister Rosetta Thorpe or the true detailed history of like rock and roll and of most other genres of music until I was damn near an adult. And that was only because I was surrounded by people. Yeah. And like, and being a Black girl, like those types of things I would have liked to see or know. Because like when you're in your formative years, everybody wants to see somebody that looks like them.
Right.
But when I first started playing guitar, there were hardly any Black people, period, in Guitar World magazine.
Right.
And then there became more and more, but there's no Black women. Like, so, but, so learning about Sister Rosetta Thorpe and like all of her contributions to, just being a pioneer in this genre of music was so inspirational for me. And so I try to embody what I believe that she was passing off to other women like me and other sisters of mine in the industry. I believe in trying to embody that and give that to the generations behind us and not just the generations in front. Because the kids of today, like they're going to follow whatever our lead is. And so if we're teaching them values of like respect other people, even if they don't look like you or identify like you still respect people. And that's something that school is not going to teach or Sister Rosetta Thorpe.
No.
Into listening to Bo Diddley much?
Yeah, absolutely. My mom was a big fan, like my grandmother too. So like we grew up listening to a lot of different records. So like I have a whole just diverse record player, records and record players in our house. But they didn't know,
No.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. It's like textbooks at schools,
Right.
They tell this like limited story and of course they leave out all the really important stuff.
Right.
And I think in the same way, all the rock and roll magazines, the guitar magazines, they just had this little narrow tunnel vision view, and it's like, well, wait a minute, that's not where this all came from. And people need to know that. I mean, how long did it take to get Rosetta Tharpe into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Which I'm not a fan of, but like it's like, come on.
Well, not only that, but like she's not even featured all that much when PBS or whoever does the history of rock and roll. It's like, come on, that's who influenced Elvis. Like.
Right. But see, that part is left out. So it's like, it's up to like people like me. It's really when I'm in those spaces of like working with kids, especially, I feel like it's up to me to make sure that when I leave those spaces that we're giving and depositing like actual truth and education to these kids, because I think that it serves one as an educational aspect, but also I think it serves as another form of inspiration,
Absolutely. That's amazing. It sounds like your parents were very supportive.
They were, and they still are. Like they are, like my dad calls himself my creative director. So like we'll be on music video sets and my dad is like, no, we need this angle. And I'm like, Dad, oh my God, please be quiet.
It's living free.
And my mom is an English teacher. And so she's always the one that's like going through my decks and like whatever pitches we have. Mom was like, this is not grammatically correct. And I'll be in interviews sometimes and she's like standing on the other side of the room like, we are, not we're. Like, Mom.
My mom too is an English teacher, and
God.
but luckily I learned pretty quickly. So like when she was teaching high school and I was in elementary school, she'd give me the papers to grade and I'd be like, should I be doing this? But sure. Okay.
Tell us about your guitar and like how you put it together and what features and why you like those features. My husband's like, make sure we get all the gear information.
Yeah, tell us about the one that's in your picture there, because that is just so beautiful.
Yeah,
thank you. So that's it's a PRS SE Custom that just came out or relaunched. Rather, the color just relaunched this past year. Unfortunately, we hadn't been able to go to NAMM. Otherwise, we would have been able to see all of their new things in person. But yes, an SE Custom. I'm actually going to be doing a specs video. So some of the specs that are in there now are not relevant, but I am about to change. What I can say is I am about to change the pickups to EMGs because I'm also endorsed with EMG. And so they're sending me some really cool pickups that I've modified a little bit to have some really cool things on. I don't want to blow it, but I'm going to do a specs video. But I will be changing to EMGs. And then the hardware is actually going to also be changed out to be gold because I think that the guitar has a very, and I like this about PRSs in general, but I have an SE Acrofeld, and that one, while it has like the classic PRS tone to it, it doesn't have the same type of like buttery classicness or classiness rather that the SE Custom has. So that guitar is easy for me to pair with like reverb and have a really good, crisp, clean tone, which is, it's hard to get a good, crisp, clean tone, like just naturally, and then adding on all the effects. So that's part of the reason why I really love that guitar. And I'm so happy that they sent that down to me. But yeah, we'll be doing more specs on that.
Speaking of the tone of the guitar. Go
Sorry,
ahead, Jen.
Gabby, do you sit down and learn like guitar leads or like Jimi Hendrix, or do you sit down and practice and really like learn those sort of learn off records, listen to records, and try to like play the guitar parts, or what's your process with that?
Yes. Yes and no. Yes, when it comes time for me to like, if I'm looking for inspiration for certain guitar solos, then I'll go backwards and say, I remembered actually, By the Sword. There's a song by Miles Kennedy and Slash that came out many years ago, but it was called By the Sword. And I love that song a lot because of the tone that Slash had on his clean parts. And then when he kicked it into his solos, and I learned the solo for that. Just to understand a little bit into like how Slash wrote his solos. Because I read up a lot on Slash too when I was listening to like Nirvana and all that. But not to digress far, but I do go back and will remember some of the solos that I've learned before. But then I also am a firm believer in like when I'm trying to get into my creative spaces, I try to figure out where am I most creative in my head? And maybe that's a specific area in my studio. Maybe it's sitting outside when the weather is just right. Finding those areas where I feel most creative, I try to drive those moments more than, all right, I'm going to play a Jimi Hendrix solo 500 times a day at home and then say that's my practice. So I feel like you got to mix it up a little bit. So yes and no.
Okay.
It makes sense. Yeah, the tone of the guitar. I watched some of the live videos that you did, and I did notice sort of like, it's intergenerational, but I do hear some of those 60s tones that are sort of the classic ones, and it just sounds so good. I mean, you got that down. So
thank you.
I love Slash too, Gabby.
That's my guitar husband. He doesn't know it yet. I love Slash.
Well, see, Guns is one of my favorite bands of all time, and one thing I love about Slash is that I will know immediately if he's on a song. Like if he does a guest solo randomly, it's just like, oh, Slash. It's like that's Slash right away. And I think that's so unbelievable because I cannot do that with other people. Maybe I've just listened to so much Guns N' Roses in my life.
No, I agree, because like I have that too. Like I think I actually found out about that song By the Sword, and honestly, Miles Kennedy, that entire project that he released with that, I found out about that because they were playing it somewhere, maybe in like a Guitar Center, which I hate Guitar Center, but maybe somewhere like a music store, and I heard the solo, and I was like, that sounds like Slash. What song is this? So
it's like, there
you do.
Hey, Gabby, have you ever been to the Guitar Center in Los Angeles?
Yes.
Have all the handprints and all that kind of stuff?
I hate it so much. I've been in there, like whenever I come out to LA, if I absolutely have to go, like I have zero choice, then I'll go there. But I don't. I just try to make sure my bags are packed before I leave Atlanta, because I do not like going to Guitar Center.
When Jesse and I were growing up, back then, they used
1920s.
Not the 20s.
Guitar Center was not like that at all. It was this tiny store. And the way that I found my first band is I wrote on a McDonald's French fries bag, "Girl into the Kinks looking for a band."
That could have gone the wrong way, Jen.
Yeah, Kinks. But that's before Mitt Romney owned Guitar Center.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But they used to have just a bulletin board. It's like that at all anymore. And then we used to be, I don't know, it was just so remember, it was so incredible.
A different time. Yeah.
Well, they had all kinds of guitars that you could just try.
The corporate people got their grubby little hands on it. So
right. a mess.
So you're not going to be doing an endorsement deal for them, I'm guessing, right?
Listen, never say never, but I got to see something. I got to see something change before I put my name on it, because I just can't. It's just, and it's really not even like it's not even the structure or the business model. It's really the people. Like, it's just the culture of going into Guitar Center. I just immediately feel sexism at the door. And I just don't feel like dealing with that some days. Some days I can like plow through and I'm like, don't talk to me. Bring me up, please. That's it. Especially if I'm met with that energy. And a lot of times, 8 to 9 times out of 10, if I have to go in Guitar Center, I walk in with resting bitch face, because I really don't want men to talk to me, because it's just always the same interaction. I hate it.
Do you get a lot of sexism like towards you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All day. Every day.
Is it the internet trolls? Are they?
Yeah. It's mostly the internet trolls, which is why I never feed into it, because like the more you feed into something, then the more it grows. And I'm just not dealing with that. But if I like recently, when Guitar World put my feature up, like it was already printed and in the stores, and it had already like been on the internet. But then when they put it up again on their website, the comment section was it was really bad. And I've had a lot of bad comment sections. I've had people that have gone to the lengths of like coming to my YouTube page and writing like slurs all over it. It's gotten really bad, and it happens every now and then. Yes. But I usually delete it. I'm really quick at deleting those things, because I don't do negative energy over here.
Right.
So
good.
I just delete it. And don't feed it. Don't give it no energy.
You're a beautiful, smart, Black guitar playing woman.
Thank you.
They're all afraid of you.
Yeah. Plus you're a lawyer, and it's like,
right.
Watch
like,
out.
I mean,
Do people find
when the world is round again, are you going to start touring? Where would you like to go? What kind of tour will the TxLips go on?
I want to get back to Canada for sure. Before the pandemic really set in, we were heading up to Toronto and Ontario, and then back to Montreal. But all that got interrupted. So what I'm working on now is, and it's so hard to say, because it's hard to book shows 6, 7, 8 months out, which is like my usual minimum calendar, when we don't even know if we're going to be allowed in other states. So, in other countries. So I don't know. I really want to get back up to Canada though. And then also getting to South Africa and Kenya has been on our tour list, and then getting back into UK and Germany, and hopefully France. We have a lot of supporters in London and France mostly.
Oh, I bet.
So
yeah,
trying to get back over there.
That's great. When you're teaching, because I know that you go to a lot of like the summer camps, and which is awesome. What are you hearing from the kids that you're talking to? Like, what are they listening to now? And are they like, oh my God, this is crazy that you play this instrument, and it's like, I have never really heard this. I mean, because the radio is just like filtered now. It's just garbage.
Yeah. It is.
It's terrible.
It is. And it makes it difficult for artists like us. Like, we can't, like, it used to be that the thing to do in order to get heard was to get your song playing on the radio. But like, half the people, the last time I listened to the radio, like music station, was like years ago.
Oh yeah.
If I turn on the radio, it's NPR, and that's honestly about it. But
I'm not the only one.
I love NPR. I'm not even gonna go on my rant. I love NPR.
Do you have a special Spotify playlist?
We've been added to a couple of them. Our friends, the Nova Twins, they have us on one of their playlists, and we're working on our summer playlist now, actually, to put up on. So that'll be up on our website soon. But the campers usually are like super enthusiastic, and a lot of it is just like, when we were able to physically go to camps, it was just like a group of all Black females walking into their room holding instrument cases, and it was just like their eyes lit up. And truthfully, like I always say, if that is what I did for the rest of my life, I would honestly feel successful and very much okay with my career, because again, it's like the biggest thing for me is being able to use my time and energy and talents into investing into the younger kids that, you know, were the 8-year-old Gabbies or the 8-year-old, you know, members of my collective. Like, that's really the reason why we're all here. It's not just the fun things like being able to tour and like magazines, all that kind of stuff is definitely a lot of fun. But it's the being able to directly impact the young kids that are looking up to adults like us. That means more to me.
I think a lot. I think women get that more than men. They understand that. Damn the man.
Gabby, what kinds of things are you watching? What kind of movies? What kind of things are you binge watching? Are you? Did you watch the Billie Holiday?
Oh, it's amazing.
Billie Holiday. What are you into?
It's funny you mentioned the Billie Holiday because actually a member of the collective, Aaliyah Guerra, she lives in Montreal and she was in that movie. So I have to shout out Aaliyah because that was really awesome when I saw her BTS before they put it out. But lately my little sister is a journalist and we've all been quarantining in Atlanta. So she came down here and she got me binge watching. I'm about 10 years late, y'all, so don't drag me, but The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. I've been binge watching the hell out of Walking Dead. Rick is like my TV husband. So
my nephew's going to be on The Walking Dead in a couple weeks, so watch out.
Oh, that's so cool.
And Roberts. It's going to be exciting.
I just want to say that my mom used to go see Billie Holiday perform.
Did you see the movie, Gabby? Have you seen it yet?
No, not yet. It's been on my list. I know. I gotta watch it.
I sobbed just
what
like
about Nina Simone.
Amazing.
I haven't watched that one yet, but I did see one documentary on her. But she, she's
the artist that played Billie Holiday. I am like, give her every award.
Give her all of the awards. She deserves them all.
God, just like when what's his face did Freddie Mercury. I was like, give him the award because I can't imagine having to play an icon. Like that's got to be
like no pressure.
Who's gonna play you?
I don't know. Okay, we're casting for the movie now. So who do you want? Come on, tell us.
Casting call.
You tell us a little bit about your band, about the different members.
Yeah, so right now we have about 15 members around the world that are contracted. They're called the TxLips Gang. So if they're watching this, gang. But Jay is actually one of my favorite musicians because Jay and I actually go back some years. When I toured to Oakland, I think it was like 2016 or 17, I met Jay and Jay was playing for another all-female band in Oakland. And so we did a show together and then we became friends. And then fast forward to 2018, I went back to Oakland and Jay actually played with me. And that's when Jay became like official TxLips member. And then in 2019, I called up Jay because I went out to New Mexico to film a movie with Netflix. And they were like, we need an all-female band. I'm like, stop right there. I got you. So I called Jay and Jay came. And so Jay's one of my favorite musicians though. They live in Oakland and they've been playing drums for, I don't even know, probably like 15, 20 years, maybe a little bit more. But Jay is really cool. They have a really cool vibe to them. They have a really cool sound. They know very, very specifics of what it is that they're looking for. And they have different drum sets. So like Jay is one of those musicians that like I call Jay when I need something done. And then Aaliyah also in Montreal. I love Aaliyah. She has a beautiful voice, excellent writing skills, phenomenal guitarist, and just all around hustler. She builds apps. Like, do y'all know anybody that just randomly builds apps?
No.
So, all right. So Aaliyah is really cool. And then there's Megan, who plays guitar in South Carolina. There's Taye. She lives here. Planet Venus. She plays keys. She's here. Lauren, who lives in London. She did a show with us when we toured to London in September of 2019. So like the list goes on and on, but everybody is just like, they're all really cool musicians. And I think that's the camaraderie that each of us have when we're in our musical spaces and also outside of our musical spaces. It's really cool. And I just love supporting them and all the things that they're doing the same way that they're doing for me. So, yeah.
Wow.
Love the game.
And them being so diverse stylistically really probably helps you develop in all sorts of different directions, because you're doing such a fusion of different types of music, which was back in the 60s. I remember bands like they'd hear something new and they'd incorporate it into their work, but then things became kind of everybody went off and did their own thing. But what's great about what you're doing is that you can hear that sort of melange of different sounds and stuff. And I know it's deliberate, but can you tell us more about how you sort of come up with your musical recipes?
Yeah. So my writing process like varies every year. So it's like, and this was part of the reasons why, like growing up, my dad was like, you have to learn how to harness your gift. You gotta definitely have the guitar part, the writing aspect, the singing, and the business. And it's a lot to juggle. But when you learn to harness your gift, then it becomes a little bit easier to navigate and let it work for you instead of you working for it. So I try to challenge myself when it comes to music. Some days I write lyrics first. I recently wrote a song that I'm about to start recording to come out later this year. But I'll write the songs, I'll write the music, and then I'll do a rough demo. I know how to use Logic. I'm not like a pro, but I learned how to use my little setup at home so I can make demos. And then I'll send it out. Once I get the whole thing done, I'll send it out to the band. And this is the part of the reason why I love the musicians that are part of the collective, and also the reason why it's set up like a collective. We don't always get to have rehearsals together. It's not a traditional band where it's the same people every single show. So being able to have musicians that are, working at their craft the same way that I'm always doing mine and have the drive to succeed are the type of musicians that I love working with. Because like when I went out to Oakland in 2018, Jay, we didn't have a rehearsal. Jay, literally, I sent them the music and I said, "You gonna be able to learn this?" And Jay was like, "Say less." You talking to? So when we got there, and the show was great, but those types of musicians are like, I really love working with those types of musicians. And then once they've learned like the foundation of the music, and I write out the charts, I write out all that kind of stuff to give everyone everything they need to be successful at the gig. Once they do that and we've learned it, then I'll say, all right, you have the foundation. Now let me hear your flair added to that, because Jay might not be the same type of drummer as, Alexis. She's more jazz driven, and Jay is not as jazz driven, but can be. So that's kind of how like the mixture of everyone's sounds comes into play. It's when we hit the stage and you have a different styled musician per gig. It's just at that point, we're just having fun on stage. And those are the best shows.
Right. For sure.
Were you influenced at all by the punk scene, like Polystyrene, the X-Ray Specs, or the Slits? That's sort of the generation I'm from, but have you listened much to that or?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, and growing up, like one of the bands that really, outside of like listening to a lot of grunge or Nirvana and Soundgarden, one of the bands that I really love listening to is an English punk band called Tat. And I love listening to Tat because their lead guitarist and vocalist and songwriter, her name is Tatiana De Maria. And that was like one of the first instances that I was able to just get on the internet, or I might have seen her in a magazine. I think it might have been a magazine, but I just saw her holding a guitar and she was playing this music that I hadn't heard before. And so I started listening to more of their music, and I love her writing style. But I really loved listening to punk bands like Tat, and she was definitely like one of the inspirations for some of the way that I tried to bring punk into my music. And I have a song called Self-Destruct that I wrote around the same time that I started listening to Tat. And that song is more punk driven than grunge. But yes.
Oh.
Yeah, because I know that Polystyrene, she's no longer with us, of course, but there's going to be a movie coming out that I think her daughter's involved with, about X-Ray Specs, and Polystyrene.
I want to
get. She was just so interesting
amazing.
and different. Yeah. And I was also just, when you were talking, just thinking about the Slits and how sometimes they sounded, had sort of a Bob Marley influence or Wailers. I'm not really sure, but it was definitely kind of got off into different grooves, you know. And I could imagine you playing with a collective or playing with different people, how it would just kind of have all these different kind of colors in there and just different textures, which is really exciting to me.
It's so exciting.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about this Netflix movie you were in. What was that
Okay.
about?
So I can tell, right? I can tell certain pieces of information, like what's already made public. So the movie is called The Harder They Fall. And it is featuring Idris Elba, Regina King, Lakeith Stanfield, Delroy Lindo, and a whole bunch of other people. But the score was written by the Bullets and Jay-Z. And the Bullets is this really crazy, creative, dope ass musician and producer and now director from London. And I really loved just being on that set because it was inspirational to be around a whole bunch of like Black celebrities that I was like watching on TV, like Regina King, for the longest. So that's, it's an all Black Western. So I'm really looking forward to it. I can't talk about the specific scenes and all that kind of stuff just yet, but that's what the movie is about. And it was a really cool experience. So we'll be talking more about it in some interviews down the road.
Well, God, now we have to add actress to her resume.
Right. Listen, I'm trying to hit my resume,
Could you add English teacher possibly at some point?
Listen, yes, I was an educator too before the band. So
you look so young. Can I ask you how old you are?
I'm going to be 30 next year. So I'm 29.
Oh,
you're a baby.
She's a baby.
Yes, I am. But I have wisdom beyond my years.
You do. That's for sure.
No doubt. Wow. So I love that you have the LLC in the name.
Yeah, definitely. The reason why that's important to me, outside of like just having an actual business structure, is a lot of people, like when you hear the TxLips Band, and this happened for the longest, but they just heard the TxLips Band because that's all I was really marketing. I was just saying the TxLips Band, the TxLips Band. And when you hear the word band, you associate it with the traditional setup. And I wanted people to understand that this is not like a traditional setup. This is not your traditional thing. This is not, we're not just musicians. We are a whole bunch of things individually, and we're stronger as a group and as a collective, and we're moving a whole mission and business forward. It's not just a song. It's not just, we're a band, guys. I really wanted people to, really know that this is, a passion project.
And so for those not familiar with the legalese, can you explain what that means, the LLC?
Yeah, so it stands for Limited Liability Corporation. And I basically, it's just a basic foundation structure for setting up a business in the United States. And there, you can always, like a lot of people, which is part of my consulting as a lawyer, like a lot of people come to me and say, hey, I have a band. I really want to, push things and get into some of the things that I've seen you do over the years. What's the best route to take? My first thing is make sure you have your business in order. Do you have your LLC set up? Because a lot of things like rehearsal spaces, some of my tour expenses, those are things that I can write off because I'm an LLC. So understanding those things is important. You can save money.
That's probably more important now than ever before, because somebody tweeted the other day and they said, what do labels do anyways? And I laughed out loud because I'm like, what do they do these days?
Listen, I don't, right. I mean, besides give you a ton of money, but I mean, people have TikTok now, so you can make your song go viral and then start making money in 15 days. So
yeah, and how many people are they actually giving money to? It's probably
right.
Limited
Yeah,
number,
that's
so,
and the strings attached, because the strings have definitely changed over the years, especially with social media being a driving marketing force.
Well, I love that everything that you've sort of brought together has such a social justice focus to it, so that it's empowering people. It's showing different ways of building bands, and it's also adding this incredible diversity to everything. As a trans woman, it's really exciting. To know that all these people that you're working with. I mean, it's And for trans women, especially trans women of color, it's a really difficult time. So to get all that, the power and the understanding and also even from all the legal stuff, it's so inspiring. It really is. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Absolutely. It's that means a lot to me. Like the social justice piece means a lot to me, because I think that it's just treating people right really goes a long way. It goes such a long way. And I think a lot of times you just have to lead by example. And I try to do that through, you know, like my everyday walks in life, and even like with the collective members, you know, everyone has different identities, but they're no less, you know, of a musician than I am, and I'm no more than they are. But I think when, you know, treat people right and, you know, have people working towards something that they're passionate about, then it makes it a little bit easier to, like, you know, push something like inspiration in this context forward, because you have people existing in a space where they feel comfortable to exist, is what I'm trying to say. And that's very important to me. And that's something that I've been really trying to work with Girls Rock camps around the world on. Like, you know, the inclusion space there's a lot of types of people to include, and, you know, how that's done really, really can make or break a kid's experience at a camp, you know, a music camp. So yeah. I'm not going to go on my tangent, but yeah.
Yeah, I love tangents.
Well, you know, and I have a non-binary kid named Eden, who's a guitar player, and they're working out of a nonprofit space called Junior High.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called Junior High because so many people had such a difficult experience in junior high, so it's having a better experience.
I like that. Yeah.
High, you know, at this safe space where there's art installations, there's there's going to be, again, live performances and so forth, you know, and it's also a retail space, but it's giving a voice to people that that are marginalized, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I love to see that my kids doing that, you know.
Yeah. I love that.
Gabby,
that's beautiful.
When you know, we could go to shows, do you feel they were a safe space? Did you ever have like uncomfortable times, or have your friends, or I mean,
sometimes there were definitely shows where we being the collective that were playing on that specific show, there were times where we didn't feel included and or safe in certain spaces because of the culture of people that were there. And being Black, and then, you know, having a diverse group of non-binary musicians that, you know, are with me and like are genuine friends of mine, and not just, you know, here for a show or here for a magazine shoot. You know, it became very tricky. But you know what I will say is two things. One, we learned how to make our own space and not wait on other people. And this is part of the reason why I'm like really big on pushing all of these different facets of TxLips, not just the music, because I'm a firm believer in, if I don't see a space made for me, then I'm going to make it. And, you know, if you want to come from the other table to sit over here, that'll be great. But like, I don't believe in asking for someone who doesn't see who I am or the color of my skin as something that should be respected. I don't want to sit at your table anyway. Right. So there were definitely times when we didn't feel included in venues, but you know what? We were contracted to do a job. So we stayed, you know, backstage, stayed with ourselves. That was our safe space. We trusted each other. But then there are wonderful experiences, like when we toured with the Indigo Girls, one of the best, most diverse crowds and spaces to be in.
Yeah.
Like zero issues. The only issue was like somebody being too turned and their drink fell on the stage while we were doing Teen Spirit. Like, that's a great problem to have.
It's a great problem.
But it varies though.
This is still happening today, you know, when you think back to times of like when Jackie Robinson was in playing baseball, or it's weird to think that so many years later that this is still an issue.
Right.
It is insane.
It's ridiculous.
I didn't grow up around any sort of racism. Like, I didn't. So the fact that everything's like coming out now, and when I moved to Chicago and I saw like what the systematic racism, it was just heartbreaking and shocking.
Yeah.
But then I was like, that's my stupid white privilege that like I
no, I mean, I got racism in the 60s. My father worked at Watts, you know, and there was some kind of canned good drives, and if you would just knock on the door and say, "Oh, would you like to donate canned goods?" They just had this assumption, and sometimes I get the door slammed in my face, but or something, and it's my dad had to explain it to me, but it was just like yeah, I think that was my first experience, and maybe some other things that I saw, on television or whatever.
Yeah. Gabby, are you into researching your roots? Because I just did ancestry.com. So
me too.
I haven't, you know what? I want to, but I also have a very large question mark on some of these companies because I want to see a couple more receipts before I send my DNA off.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
But you know what though, but growing up though, we did do a lot of like ancestral research through just like talking to my great grandfather who was indigenous, and those are the best because those are like real life experiences and like direct to the source. And then like we even over the years, my mom and dad have found like random like diaries and shit, so like that's been an interesting experience to come across things about your ancestors that you weren't necessarily looking for, but then when you find it, it makes sense for where you are now or who you are now. So I'm like, I like the lineage. I see it.
Yeah, definitely.
I found out my father had a love child after World War II.
Oh,
70-something-year-old secret.
Yeah, isn't she dead?
She is dead. She died in 2016. But
oh man.
It's funny if you look at her and the siblings who were more Italian, you'd say like no DNA necessary. It's like because my father was a redhead and the mother was also Jewish, put in an orphanage, never matriculated, but never adopted. I guess she sympathy effed my father. She was like 15 years older or something like that. Like, I don't know, to think that my dad was like the same age as my kid when he got back from the war.
It's always crazy.
And like 22, 23. And and the woman was 35 and he was just, they called it at that point shell shocked. That's or was it what they call it nowadays, but that's what happened. They lived next door to one another, and
that's crazy.
And I think they had a pact never to tell anybody, but
that
she looks like not like the others.
Not like the others.
Yeah.
Did you learn anything crazy about your ancestors that you were like, wow, this sounds a lot like me? Or sounds like you come from a family of go-getters.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like, if anything, that's like one of the main things. And granted, like there's a whole lot of research left to do, but I definitely come from both sides of my family are go-getters. Like my grandmother was a single mother, and she had 2 daughters, my mom and her sister, and like it was a lot. She was a young Black single mother with 2 kids living in DC trying to make ends meet. And every time I listened to my mom, or even like talking to my grandmother before she passed away, just talking to her about like what life was like and some of the experiences and things that they went through. Like even my mom and I talk about this all the time, but like, cause she went to Spelman also. But just like talking to her about her experiences and like, coming down here, my mom came down here by herself at like 18 years old with 0 money and was like, I'm going to graduate, period. And she did. And, even that kind of stuff really inspires me, like just as a daughter, and as a young woman, like just learning about how my grandmother didn't let circumstances or things that people did affect how her kids were going to, view her, or how her kids were going to view their own life, is very, very powerful. And my grandfather on my dad's side was the same way. He's very motivated. He was one of the first, batch of 8 Black police officers for City of Atlanta Police Department.
Wow.
And he just growing up talking to him, and then he passed that down to my dad, who was, a captain of all the police before he retired. And, my dad's a whiz with credit. So, just, it's like, it's been so fascinating. I know that's random, but it's been fascinating though, because my parents definitely passed on things to me and my sisters that the older I get and I'm doing some of this research, I see where he gets it from. And I'm like, okay, granddaddy gave that to you. So that makes sense. And my grandma, you know, she told you that, and that makes sense. And now I'm receiving it. So
yeah, it sounds like you're just like a hodgepodge of all of your family
all of these
into
things.
one.
Yeah. Yeah. We call ourselves the Logan gang.
American?
Yeah.
Did you say you also have Native American?
Yeah, my great grandfather on my mom's side was indigenous, and he passed away when I was very young. But he had a lot of really good moments and stories that he told us about growing up, and it was fascinating to listen to.
Wow.
So,
do you know
what is your feeling about rap music? Is that anything that you listen?
I love rap music. I'm from Atlanta, so you know, Atlanta's home of trap. I love Migos. I love, you know, mulatto. Like I love all of these different artists. I love rap. I love hip hop. I listen to it all. One thing though is I've been getting more into bluegrass lately because my sister, she's definitely listens to a variety of styles of music. She loves Casey Musgraves, which I've come to love as well. Not as much into Taylor Swift, but you know, maybe one day.
Are we going to see you playing banjo and mandolin and everything pretty soon?
Listen, never say never. We might. As soon as I get one, I'm going to learn how to play it.
So, I'm a Reiki healer, and one time I had this gal come to me, and I felt her tummy, and it was like going bump, bump, and I was like, what? It turned out that she was a rapper.
Hey,
love it. I think her name's Kid Sister, but I don't know if she's an attorney.
Oh, there you
love it.
From Chicago,
there we go.
Beth, I believe. And she had a song called Pro Nails.
Ooh, and, I like the name of that already.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. It was just so weird when I felt her stomach. I go, I've never felt that before. And it was like, it was inside of her, this like thumping, you know, and it was just so
part of who she is.
Yeah.
When you hear stories about your family and about the history of all that, how does that translate into your music?
I think that it translates through the way that I play guitar or the way that I sing certain things. One thing that I had to learn to harness, which I still have some work to do, but I've definitely come a long way from when I first started like tapping into my gift. But like, I think what's missing from a lot of guitarists and a lot of things in the music industry now is passion. Everybody wants to shred and everybody wants to compete for who's the, you know, fastest metal player. Like, nobody cares if we can't feel nothing that you play fast. Okay, so now what? Like,
right?
I can outrun you. Like, that doesn't mean anything. So the passion for me is like the biggest thing. And I think that if you can bring that to the forefront of what it is that you're trying to put out there, to me, that's the way to connect with people that don't look like you or sound like you. And you would probably never be in the same room with people that you meet at a concert. But like, that's the genuine, power that music has. And so I try to bring a lot of that through my music, like the stories that my parents told me, and, you know, just trying to figure out a way to be more appreciative and humble every day for the stories and the sacrifices that I know my parents had to give in order for me to be where I am. You know, just bringing that through the way that the music is presented is powerful, because you're not going to always be able to see somebody in concert. Like now, the pandemic is definitely testing the relationship that a lot of people have with music.
Yeah.
But I think if you're able to turn on a track, like every time you turn on Teen Spirit, the energy is there. I don't have to be, looking at Kurt. That would be great, but I can still feel them,
I think that's what I love about the rawness of like someone like a Bo Diddley, like it's so, it was so like in the moment, and the energy, and it's like so spontaneous.
Mm-hmm.
That Little Richard or something like that is just how crazy it gets, and how it just like really energizes you, because you don't know what's going to happen, or, it's like that feeling of really like stirring something up in your soul or something.
Really the rawness, like you said.
So what is coming up for you, Gab?
What is coming up? I'm trying to figure out where to start. So we're gearing up for the TxLips Academy. which is going to be popping off this summer, working with a lot of different girls rock camps. I'm actually the board chair for Girls Rock Asheville. So we have a lot of planning and work that we're doing right now for bringing a robust virtual summer camp to campers. And then I'll be releasing 2 new singles later this year. And then we'll be doing a slew of like some virtual concerts later in the year as like anniversary for the albums that I dropped last year. And then a music video actually. Oh my God, sorry. My sound is like,
we've all got dogs there.
Gassed up. But yeah, I'm sure she'll pop down here in a second. But those are the things I'm like really putting a lot of energy on. And then also my music video for the Deadpool. I'm working on a release date for that. And then one of the last biggest things that's on my plate right now is diversity and inclusion workshops. So I work with a lot of girls rock camps and other music businesses or manufacturing companies and music entities to do like one-on-one diversity and inclusion training. Because what I started realizing is that you all don't know what that means. So we need to dive into that a little bit more. And, you know, having 1 or 2 Black people on your roster is not diversity. And it's also not inclusion because your board is still all white.
Yeah.
So we've been working with
funny how that
like
works.
Starting at the top. Right, exactly. So we've been working with a lot of the top people and people in leadership and board of directors to say, you know, let's walk through this. Let's walk through how your white privilege gives you an advantage, even in the lens that you're trying to be diverse. Like, you know, unpacking all those things and then actually putting the steps in place to change what diversity and inclusion looks like. And that's why I love the way that PRS has been doing it, because PRS gets it. Their roster is very diverse. So
yeah, I don't play guitar, but my husband does. And he said that's a great line. He's like, wow, that's awesome. Like,
they are really good people. They're really good people.
That's great.
Gabby, can you do a commercial for Metal Priestesses podcast?
Yes. What do I say? Oh my gosh, put me on the spot.
It's really easy. It's really easy. You just say, hi, I'm Gabby from, you know, the TxLips or however you want to introduce yourself, and say, listen to the Metal Priestesses podcast and subscribe on YouTube.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, it's easy.
Am I doing that now, or should I record it and send it?
Just do it now.
Okay. Okay. Hey y'all, what's up? It's Guitar Gabby of the TxLips Band, and you need to listen to the Metal Priestesses. Please make sure you subscribe on YouTube to hear the rest of our interview.
Yay!
You're a pro.
Was that good?
She is a pro. Wow. She's a total pro.
One take. Do you do one takes when you're singing?
Listen, I've gotten to the point. Because I spend a lot of time like in the mirror, you know, just like, what do I look like on camera? So that way I can save money and time in photo shoots.
Is style something you think about, or are you just one of those naturally
stylish people?
Yeah,
right.
I think I naturally have a little drip, a little swag, but it's usually, the thing is, like, it usually only happens when I know I have something to do or somewhere to go. And then it's like, okay, well, I know I have a ton of leather, so let's just like find items that I think will go together in my head, but we'll see.
Before we go, I just wanted to touch on what is your guitar world writing going to be consistent of? Do you know how often you'll be writing?
So I have a few different projects that I've started on. One of them actually should be out, today is March. I believe on March 17th, it will be on the Guitar World website, but I'm doing a feature on a friend of mine, a big sister of mine, Melina Moy, who is a phenomenal guitarist. And she just is releasing a music video with Bella Thorne. So I'm going to be doing a really cool feature on that. And then I'm also working on a series with some other friends of mine in the industry, like Jackie Vincent and Kingfish, Christone Ingram.
I love Kingfish.
Yeah, that's like, Kingfish is one of my best friends. He's such a really cool dude. I'm just so happy. Every time I get on the internet, I see him somewhere. I'm just so happy.
My husband got me into him, and like, we'll just sit for hours and watch him on YouTube. And I'm like, I want to be his friend.
Right. He's such a cool dude. He's very chill, very down to earth type of guy. Super humble.
Oh my God. That's fantastic. Aww.
Yeah. So Yeah, I don't have the release date for those yet, but those are working on those.
Well, I'm happy that you're like bringing some of these artists to light, and you know, more people will get to know them.
Yeah,
but it also seems like you need to get a little busier. You're not doing
Right.
Right, exactly.
Right.
More things.
You join us another time as a Metal Priestesses host. Can we like contact you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I would love that. I love conversations like these because I feel like we're just having a really good,
That's what we
conversation.
do here. There's no format.
Yeah.
Plus, it's
format free.
Yeah. Plus, it's the fact I don't think women like get to talk to other women.
Yeah.
So much, and we hear that a lot from the women that we interview. That you know, they're like so relieved they can just kind of talk about whatever.
Have a nice girl chat about and like talk about things we can all relate to, like how much we hate this person or
there's so many different issues. Elizabeth's been talking a lot about body image. There's so many different ways we need to support each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, no one to 100%. Mansplain to us.
Right.
That's the best part.
Oh, the mansplaining.
I can't stand it.
Well, we love you, and we're so thrilled that you let us interview you, and we definitely would love to have you back as a co-host.
Absolutely.
Sometime.
Absolutely.
And if
I would love to.
Yeah, if you have any suggestions of other wonderful artists that you think should be on,
that would be great.
Send them to us.
Have you all heard of Ice?
No.
Or how about Chenna Rocks?
No.
I'm gonna DM you. Those are two of my sisters.
Please.
And they are like they are phenomenal Black women that play the fuck out of a guitar. I don't know if I can cuss.
Oh, yeah, you
can. They after I already said that before. But they are phenomenal. So I'll DM you their pages, but they are really, really, really cool, dope ass guitarists for sure.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Thank you for being on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Gabby.
Oh, it was our pleasure.
Alrighty. Thanks. Yeah.
Hope
Bye,
to see you
y'all.
again.
Absolutely.
Bye,
all right.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.